Out of there, daylight burners. Happy Tuesday. Uh, Sorry I didn't get one out to you uh, on Monday. Um, no, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but wasn't quite sure what I wanted to say, what I actually wanted to talk about. There's a lot of shit going on in the world today, and I honestly don't know what to make of most of it. So um, I just wasn't quite sure what to talk about. So I'm just gonna go to the old tried and true method. When in doubt, just ramble and try to tie it all up in a bow at the end of it. So we'll see how that goes. But before we get on into that shit show, got to talk to you about Loma Livestock. You know, they're owned and operated by my good buddy George Raftopoulos. You know him, know what he's all about. And they got a sale going tomorrow and every other Wednesday, starting at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, followed by with the cows and singles. Then it'll be followed by the feeders at 11. And they're pretty well the best sale barn in the United States. And it's a good deal they got going on. You can also check them out on. You can watch the sale live in real time at dvauction.com. Just click on the Loma Livestock link, and you'll be able to watch it all right there. So if you got any questions or you want to consign with them, give them a holler, 970-858-9988, or check them out online at lomalivestock.com. So anyways, with a lot of what's been going on here lately, and a lot of some of the stuff I've been reading up on and researching, and it's just there's a lot of similarities between our past and today, and there's always there's that saying, where if we don't learn from our mistakes, history is doomed to repeat itself. And I used to be a firm believer in that, and now I think you can just skip the first part and just say that history is doomed to repeat itself. And I don't think there's, even though there's a lot of similarities between like now and say the 1920s or the 1930s, kind of the late 1920s. It's not a perfect lineup chronologically. There you had the Spanish flu in 1918, and then the stock market crashed in like 29. So there was a little bit of time in between those two events, where now here we are in 2020, and we got kind of the both of them going on simultaneously, and one was kind of bound to happen, and then it was brought on by this pandemic, maybe a little earlier than most people thought, and we're not, I guess, not really in a depression yet, but it's things don't really look good economically, and so it's and it's I don't think it's entirely because we just repeated the mistakes throughout history. I think there's a lot of people that try to change things so we didn't end up like we did in the Great Depression, or whatever the case may be. I think there's a lot of people that have tried to steer the course of the ship, so we don't repeat history, and we still end up repeating history. And I think there's just, maybe it's a natural cycle, or God's will, or whatever kind of feeling you want to put behind that. It just things are bound to happen, and I don't know that you can stop it, but that all got me thinking, is like a lot of the stuff that I've been researching and reading up on deal with kind of rebellion and you know, standing up to authority, and very kind of individualist, patriotic kind of um, don't take any shit type of people. And so um, you know, I did the episode with Kate about the Whiskey Rebellion. That was one that I found very interesting because it's a lot of similarities to today. Oh, speaking of whiskey, well, it was all fought over, which it really wasn't though. It wasn't. It just happened to be that whiskey was the product being taxed, but it was all over a tax. And the people that stood up were the people that pushed west, towards the frontier, wanted to be away from people, um, and do their own thing, make their own life, and those were the people that rebelled. Now, granted, the rebellion got put down pretty quickly, um, and and then you know that kind of rebellious spirit was always there. And then I'm doing a lot of research on the Mormons, just because the more I find out about not so much the religion. I still am um, very ignorant on the actual doctrine of the Mormon religion. I don't know a whole lot about it. I've learned a little bit more in this book that I read, or I guess I listened to. I don't have much time to sit down and read a book for any extended period of time anymore. But I spend a lot of time alone on horseback, so I catch a lot of my reading that way. And but I listened to this book on the Mormons. Just finished it up today, and so I learned a little bit about the doctrine itself, but not a whole lot. I'm strongly considering just reading the Book of Mormon to see what it's in there, but because it sounds like it might be a good read. Not for spiritual enlightenment or anything. Don't worry, I'm not converting to Mormonism, but it sounds like it could just be a fun read. And but man, I knew that there was some interesting shit about the early Mormons that made the migration out to Utah and Arizona, Idaho, Colorado, just kind of the whole Great Basin region. And I knew that there was some because I remember reading a little bit about it in textbooks growing up about like the Mormons attacking a bunch of wagon trains going through Utah, but there wasn't ever much time spent on it. And then I watched the show Hell on Wheels. I don't know if anybody's watched it. If you haven't, you should. It's a very, very good show, but it's about the building of the Union Pacific Railroad. And they go into some detail about dealing with the Mormons, but it was, they kept the Mormons as kind of a mysterious bunch. You learned a little bit about the settlers at the time and a little bit about their religion, but it was, of course, it being I guess a TV show, it's gonna be hard to delve very deep into them, but I knew that there was always something interesting there. And then I dove into this book, and it it bounces back and forth between like the early days of the founding and like up through the migration out to Utah, and all the way to renouncing polygamy and becoming a state, to pretty well modern day. I think this book was wrote in like 2009 or something like that. So it goes all the way up to early 2000s, and these splinter, like extreme fundamentalist Mormon groups versus the current modern day LDS church. And it's boy, there's a lot there, and I'm gonna do a history series on it. Um, it's gonna take a while. There is a lot going on there, but it was really interesting, the founding of that church. And it was a very rebellious spirit. You had this guy Joseph Smith, who was a very ardent Christian. He was I think he was a Calvinist of some sort. I forget which branch exactly. But before he branched off on his own to start this new religion. And it's a funny story, and it's kind of strange that as many people, I don't want to say fell for it, because I don't know if how many Mormon listeners I have, but I guess same could be said just for just about any religion. It's just maybe it seems so weird for us on the Mormons, because it's fairly recent as far as religions go. And no, it's the whole story of you know reading through a pair of magic goggles into a hat so that you could you know transcribe the Book of Mormon. It was no, it seems a little different in my opinion. Put it lightly, it seems a little crazy. Um, but then you get down into like the doctrine and like the practice of the religion, and it's there. It's still kind of weird, kind of crazy. Um, but you look at the modern day Mormon community, and they're very tight knit. They're very well stocked, well prepared. Some of their teaching says requires all the members to have enough food and water and essentials to last for a year in preparation for the end times. And so you know regardless of the reason behind it, it's a good idea to have a store of food and ammunition and water and all that type of essential stuff when it comes to just surviving. And then they're also very like close knit family type, very traditional. And I find that to be a good thing. There's nothing wrong with being a little different, but I think by and large the Mormon community's kind of got it, you know, kind of got their head on a swivel as far as how they act as a people, uh, regardless of what their religion, the I guess the religious texts say and whatnot. It's no, it's a fascinating story. So that's I'm going to spend quite a little bit of time on that. It was I think that book, I just scratched the surface on it. And so if anybody is a fan of Dan Carlin um, and hardcore history and his series, if you like him, well, just prepare to be greatly disappointed, because I'm going to try to copycat that with this whole story of the Mormons. And it could be a very long multi-part series, but I'm trying my hand at it. I think it's a story worth telling. It's interesting, very very interesting. And so I've got that, and it just all of that. And and then we've got this movie bracket coming up where we're discussing and voting on the top 64 Western movies of all time. And there's always some loose historical what would you say? What would you call it? There's always some like loose historical association with those movies. Of course, it's Hollywood, so they do what they do, and ramp up the drama and whatnot. But there's always some sort of kind of loose storyline to a historical event, and I love westerns. I love the old stories, and it just I always kind of marvel and wonder like how today we would stack up against the people that just kept pushing west, and uh I don't know how we would stack up, because there's still people out there today that are just like pushing for something different, uh and so maybe it's just a different type of pioneer nowadays. I don't know, it's one of those things that's always kind of, it's why I love history. It's just it's fascinating when you look at where we've come from, and where we're headed. And I don't know, it's crazy times we're living in. Um, but I had a couple funny stories I thought I I would share with you from the news headlines, before I let you go. But um, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Biden on the campaign trail. He's been kind of quiet here lately because he can't string more than a couple sentences together at any given time without falling all over himself. But um, he denied the allegations from this former staffer of his that accused him of sexual assault. There was another allegation, I guess, too. I haven't read too much up on it, so I'm not even gonna comment on it. But I would bet that there's gonna be a whole bunch of these coming out. But this Tara Reid, not Tara Reid, the actress, but one of his former staffers who accused him of giving her the old with the old finger blast against her will. And I don't know if there's any any truth behind it. I know that they said there's been several people that corroborated her story, but nobody was present when it happened. I think I don't know for sure. Um, with my gut feeling that it happened, probably, and not all that surprised by it. There are a bunch of old creeps there in Washington, if you haven't found out, from the White House on down. So um, that part doesn't surprise me at all. But one of the big themes is always is the either false coverage or incredibly biased coverage of you know on typically on conservative type politicians. They're just horrible press on against them, and then good press for the liberals, and that's kind of a constant struggle. But on Biden's case, there's been almost no coverage on it, on this whole deal, and you'd think it'd be kind of a big story considering the guy's um, the Democratic nominee for president. Um, well, not officially yet, but basically he's the guy, and you'd think this would be a big story, but kind of been swept under the rug. But enough people started speaking up, I guess, and so kind of been brought to everyone's attention. And it was there was a bunch of people that had to make the rounds. Biden had to come out and deny that it ever happened, and Pelosi got asked about it on I, I think it was C-SPAN maybe or something. And so I guess just to give you the quote, if you haven't heard it, it's just to put it into context. So this is Nancy Pelosi, who we're kind of It seems like the Me Too movement's kind of dying off. It's not nearly as big of a deal, but that was like 2017, I believe, when the Me Too movement really hit full swing, and women everywhere were coming out, and I I don't know how to say it without sounding like a dick, so I'll just say it. I'm throwing out allegations, and I'm not saying that they were just whether they were wrongful allegations or not. I'm just saying there was a lot of them flying around in 2017. It just that for whatever reason that moment all culminated kind of with like the Harvey Weinstein deal. And so there was all these sexual assault allegations being thrown out there, and a lot of them true, probably some of them not. And but one of the big narratives from the Democrat Party, particularly from Hillary Clinton, was believe all women. And then I guess this whole thing kind of came to a big climax with the Kavanaugh hearing, when a pretty weak allegation against him for sexual assault from like 40 years ago. Very little to back it up, and the Democrats and the media just went wild with it, and that seemed to be when like the Me Too movement kind of came to a head. And but also one of those people behind like the all believe all women hashtag Me Too deal was Hillary Clinton and then Nancy Pelosi. So this is who is being asked about this allegation of sexual assault by Joe Biden. And she comes out and says doesn't think this is a true allegation because Joe Biden is Joe Biden. We're going off of that that logic. Any single allegation that ever comes up of him, I would believe, just because Joe Biden is Joe Biden. But that's not how that works. And I don't know if old Nancy's slipping or if she's just always been this dumb and I haven't known. But boy, she really kind of put her foot in her mouth there. But no, that goes to show you that that they will do anything they can to win and retake power. I don't know what else tells you, because you've got a senile old pervert running, and you just got everybody just turning a blind eye that he is failing mentally. He's got some, at the very least, overly friendly hands towards particularly young women, and just like skate on by all of that and just keep propping him up. And yeah, I don't know if he's gonna make it to the election, let alone through 4 years. I don't know what the strategy is there, but yeah, Joe Biden is Joe Biden. And I guess to leave it off on in this one on a really good note, probably be my favorite guy might be of 2020. Find this guy's name real quick. All right, so my hero of the week is a guy named Chris Platzer. Platzer, and he was RIP city councilman from Vallejo, California. And due to the whole Rona, the COVID-19 shutdown, everybody is now meeting on Zoom, and these the city council is no different. So the city of Vallejo was having their city council meeting, virtually via Zoom, and apparently it was a doozy. It was a long one. And right about 2.5 hours in, somebody asked this Chris Platzer guy, this legend, if he would, if he had something to say about some project or whatever. And he turns his microphone on, and you hear this, hear a cat real loud in the back. And he said, yeah, something or other, if I'm allowed to. And they said, yep, now's the time. And then his cat again. And he said, first of all, I'd like to introduce you to, Snow Nuts or whatever the fuck the cat's name is. I don't know. Whatever his cat's name was. And he said, I'd like you to meet him, old Twizzle Dick here. And he holds him up, holds his cat to the camera, and then apparently he chucked him off to the side, and you hear the cat land with a thud. And apparently all these city councilmen were just flabbergasted. They were appalled. And I sent that out to a couple different people because I thought this guy was a hero just for chucking a cat on camera. I can't stand cats, so anytime something like that happens to a cat, I'm all on board. But it was funny because shortly after that, I forget how long after that, it was maybe a couple days later, poor old Chris Platzer turned in his resignation as city councilman. My wife read a couple other articles on this whole deal, and apparently he was it was just a terrible situation, something I would never condone on a Zoom video conference ever. But he was cursing and he was drunk. I cannot abide by that. So the cursing and the boozing pretty well canceled out the tossing of the cat. So either way, Chris Platzer, you should have got a promotion. Probably should have been mayor and not had to resign. No, if you'd moved to a normal state and get out of California, you could probably be mayor, and then you could just throw all the cats you want to. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll run for mayor on the cat throwing, tossing pussies platform. Yeah, there it is. McKinley for mayor 20 whatever. So on that note, thanks for tuning in. Go find me on all social medias at MakerMac85, Matt McKinley on Facebook, Burning Daylight, Facebook and YouTube at Move Your Ass on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Make sure you go to check out the website. That'll be where the Western movie bracket will be located. That's where you'll vote, and everything will be on the Burning Daylight webpage. So burning-daylight.com. And thanks to George and Loma Livestock. And got a good one coming for you tomorrow. We got John O'Day. I think that's how you say his last name. And forget the other guy's name right off the top of my head. John is from Nebraska. And then we have, find his name, Dustin Berggraf. And we're going to talk about a little bit about direct marketing on the beef side of things and just kind of the cattle industry in general. It should be, I think these guys got some pretty good, interesting points of view, and I'm looking forward to hearing from them. So check that out. Bull session on Thursday. Selection Thursday. Wow, wow, wow. And George will be back on Friday for the market report. So on that note, move your ass. We're burning daylight.